introduce Professor Sam Hariharan, who will be the moderator for Redefining the Family Business panel. Professor Hariharan teaches strategy at Babson. His areas of expertise include research, teaching, and consulting in competitive strategy for many companies, including family businesses. He has been an entrepreneur himself and co-founded Nextstrat. Please put your hands together and welcome Professor Hariharan.
Welcome to all of you. The panel that I'm moderating is called Redefining Family Business, and we have three wonderful speakers who will be part of this panel. The first is Swetal Patel. We also have Keshav Balji. And Nikhil Chaturvedi. It's an interesting group because we actually have three different kinds of family businesses. Nikhil is what I would call a first-generation family business with Provogue and Prozone, a fashion apparel / retail business with also real estate. Swetal is part of a second-generation Indian-American family business, Patel Brothers, which most of you probably are familiar with. And finally, I have Keshav Balji, who is a third-generation family business. Part of the challenge is to understand how different family businesses are. They are not all the same, obviously. So I thought I would start with a simple question. What makes your family business tick? Swetal.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Our family business model, it's a lot of synergy. And believe it or not, we work in such a manner that everyone to date, and touch wood, gets along. And by getting along, it just works. We started in 1974, small little grocery store, 500 square feet, and today we have 52 stores across the country, and the majority of them are all run by family members.
Yes, sir?
Yeah, I think surviving three generations requires you to constantly innovate, because in a family business you have issues not only related to business, which can ebb and flow, but you also have issues with respect to family members. And when you combine them together, they can sometimes be a very potent combination. But I think what makes us tick is that we're united by the passion for hospitality, which is what we do, and that's the binding sort of thing that keeps us together.
And Nikhil, you're the founder of the family business within quotes, I said, because your brothers are involved. Tell us a little bit about how this whole thing got started.
I think, I think you've slightly stumped me with the question, because how did I start? It's a long story, but I'll just put it like this, that I used to be employed in an advertising agency, and I learned my ropes with a garment exporter. I tried to combine the skills and learn the rag trade, and then I tried to brand it. So that's in short. But basically what happens is that, like we're speaking about our friends here, what happens is that in family businesses which are first generation, you actually try to take yourself up first, then you pull your brother up, then you pull your brother up, and that's what happens in all families. You grow together, and that's exactly how we've grown.
So it's part necessity of needing management talent that brings your family in, to some extent.
No, I don't think, see, when you're a very close-knit family, like you have professional respect for everyone, we three brothers grew up in a very solid bonding. Parents gave us fantastic education. We didn't have the money, but we all had similar dreams and ambition. And there was always a conversation in the house that if one brother does well, he will help the other brothers come up. And I was the fortunate one who was the first one to get in. That's all what happened.
In terms of growth, I know you've had significant growth. How difficult or what are some of the unique challenges of managing growth for a family business?
For us, it was never really the financial side of managing our growth. It was more on the managing of ideas. Everyone constantly had, hey, we should do this, or hey, we should do that. So at one, excuse me. So at one point, that's when, about 10 years ago, believe it or not, a very short amount of time, everyone was given their job roles, job description, and based upon that, that's when we really started to grow even further.
So becoming a little bit more formal in terms of actual roles and responsibilities and systems,
Roles,
processes.
roles, responsibility, more technology being put in, layout, design. Like the store here in Waltham, it's part of the older generation of stores. So we need to give that a refresh. But the one that we're opening up in Attleboro in 6 to 8 months, that'll be our latest and greatest. And each store gets better. Every store gets that much better than the previous store opened.
And Keshav, I know you've worked within the context of the hospitality business, but you've also founded your own version of a new concept.
That's right. So I actually started my own company about 5 years back, where I saw an opportunity in the budget hotel space in India. So we started a management company to manage budget hotels across India. Grew that well, but then realized that we needed to, in order to really scale in the budget space, we needed to add a healthy dose of technology. So we actually built our own so-called hospitality stack, and that allowed us to also franchise our brand and aggregate hotels across India, and do it in a profitable manner. So the company was called Zip Rooms, and we've got about 80 hotels across India now in about 50 cities.
Nikhil, any thoughts on how you manage growth?
Managing growth is more about, just growing at a steady pace. See, normally when you're a first generation entrepreneur, you're running a listed company, it is the expectations of the markets and whatever you've delivered earlier, which actually start putting pressure on you. So I think the most important part of growth is patience. You have to time yourself well. I'm just giving a very simple example that in 2000, we started building a company for shopping centers in 2007. In 2008 and 9, if you saw what was happening to India, out of the total amount of new real estate coming into India, 51% was residential and 49% was commercial. Out of the 49% commercial, 50% was offices and 50% was retail. So 25% of all the space being made in the country was retail. Obviously, there was a huge amount of oversupply in pockets. And suddenly, most of the people said, oh, retail real estate is going to die. All the doomsayers said it is doomed forever, it's never going to happen again, this, that. So any business model which you build, suddenly, what's happening to online in India currently is suddenly people start saying this is not a sustainable model. 2015-16, out of the total amount of new real estate being developed in India, 85% is residential. And out of the remaining 15%, 86% is commercial offices and only 14% is retail. So now suddenly the retail supply in India is only 1 to 1.12% of the total amount of real estate being supplied in India. And now suddenly we're looking sexy again. Every fund worth its salt is chasing us and they're saying, oh, you got good assets, we'd like to partner with you. So it's about timing. So growth is about tempering yourself, being ready, and sustaining yourself in one industry and saying that I'm here for the long haul. It doesn't matter, cycles will come.
And pacing yourself to capture the opportunity when it arises. Okay. There's a question that I think Babson has a number of people who are connected to family businesses. So one question that's come up here is, what are your techniques for keeping work and family life separate?
That's a tough one to ask, especially I just had had a baby, so everyone's at home Googling and goggling. Even at work, they're Googling and goggling over this boy. But work and family, it's simple. The way that we've structured it is that it's from 7 in the morning to 6 in the evening, you're working. After 6 o'clock, we tend not to discuss work at home. There's enough time to spend to grow your business, but you also have to spend X amount of time growing your family.
Nikhil, can I come to Keshav?
It's a huge challenge for me. I'll just tell you why I'm saying this. I'd love to do what he's doing, cut off at a particular time. But you need to understand, I came from a generation of, of not having entrepreneurs at home. So I went to my friends' houses, and what I learned by just hearing them, I kept imbibing over the years. Now, typically what happens in business families is that they say, we come home and we don't talk work. But where does the child learn from? In mythology, you say Abhimanyu learned it in his tummy. There's a huge advantage which family businesses have of teaching the children while they're at home, which we did not get as we were growing up, because we didn't have that sort of exposure. So I am actually having a huge challenge not bringing my business home, because I wish to share it with my children. But at the same time, I feel that, yes, it is much more peaceful not to bring it home. So I am having my own conflicts, but I really feel that you have to share with the children for them. It's like saying, it's very important that they understand the environment in which you take a particular decision. All decisions look really right or really wrong in hindsight. But they have to understand the environment in which you take those decisions.
One of the pleasures of teaching at Babson is a number of our undergraduate students at the age of 18, 17 already have heard some of the business issues discussed at the dinner table. So I can see the value of having grown up in an environment where you're talking about business issues even at the dinner table. But it does mean managing dynamics. Very clear. Keshav, any thoughts on?
Yeah, sure. I totally resonate with what Nikhil was saying. I was sort of fortunate that my father is completely in love with hospitality, so that's all he would talk about even at the dinner table. And so we learned a lot about the hotel business just growing up. And if we wanted to spend any time with him, we would actually be spending it at the hotel. At that time, we had one property, so I kind of grew up, spending my time in the various departments of the hotel. So I can really say I actually almost grew up within a hotel. And I don't know, in the US, there would be so many laws and liability issues associated with that. But yeah, so I literally, grew up in a small hotel in Bangalore, and so I think that to a large extent, you can almost say hospitality is in my blood because of that. So you can't really teach someone, that in college or whatever it is. So I mean, I didn't learn hoteliering. In college, I did computer engineering, I did business, but because of I think all of that, all those talks and spending the time that I did in the hotel growing up, when I picked up and joined the family business, there wasn't much of a learning curve, from the hotel aspect. Of course, there was a lot to pick up in terms of how to run business. So coming to your point about separating family and business, so I actually have done, there's a theory of it, which, and I've done a few of these family business classes, and you talk about, setting up a family constitution and putting together some governance to ensure that you can actually separate family and business, and that's the best way to sort of go about doing it. But having now talked to a lot of my friends who also have family business and looking at that, I realize there's no one size fits all, to be very frank with you. I mean, it may work in one family that, talking about business in the evening is what binds everybody together. And I do know of a large family business that, through some of my close friends, and I know about 5 or 6, adults involved in the business there. And they say what binds them together is that they sit together and, and when they break bread, they actually discuss some of the issues and talk about it in a more informal setting. And that's what binds them. So it's not necessary that what, works for one family would work for the other. That's just my only 2 cents on that. So.
A number of our students are aspiring to go back and join the family business, but also have ideas of their own on ideas about new businesses they want to create and so on. And so even though you may not have done exactly, but I know, Keshav, you have, Tell us a little bit about how do you integrate your own innovation into family businesses without disturbing the pre-existing dynamics that might be there. This is a question from the audience. Keshav, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think this is in typical, especially if you're the second generation, and the stereotypical Indian family business is that you have a hard-charging first entrepreneur that pull themselves up from bootstrap themselves, built a very very successful business, and now is able to afford to educate their next generation abroad, wants them to get the best global education, and then when the child finally comes back, they only see them as exactly that, a child, and then they see these new ideas which they've paid several $1 million to educate their kids with. They see these new ideas and newfangled ideas which are out to destroy their family business rather than just sort of. So the other problem is that they don't really see this as a family business; they see it as their business, and then the next generation is still trying to integrate. So I hear of these problems with almost every one of my friends who are joining a second generation business, and I think the right way to look at it, and I was the same way. I went to Wharton, I came back, I thought I had a bunch of ideas which could be used to professionalize and globalize my family business. And obviously, I soon realized that I would have to fight my, father on every small decision at some point. But I think that the trick is to learn quickly, is to also understand, where is it worth fighting and where is it, worth sort of understanding that you got to sort of give way in certain things. And there's a bit of give and take that you'll sort of learn, and that dynamic gets built over a period of time. And there's also one thing that, you come back from these great institutions and you have these degrees, you get a little overconfident about your ability as well. And it is true that some of these things, there is something to be said for experience, there is something to be said for understanding a very different work environment. So I think actually, sometimes spending a very long amount of time in the US, conditions you in a particular way. And the hard fact is that it will be a big adjustment for most people when you go back to India and you start working in India, because business is done in a slightly different way. So like I said, there's a bit of give and take that you have to do. Yeah.
Some patience.
Oh, absolutely. Patience is.
So I know you've been trying to get new ideas into business development, product development, and so on at Patel Brothers. You want to tell us a little bit about some of the...
I actually got lucky with my father, because at a certain point, my father and uncle laid down the foundation for the business. Myself, my brother, a few of our cousins, we built the business. They laid the foundation, we built it. So for me, there was very little pushback on anything that I wanted to do. Yeah, making the investment into certain packaging, design, it hurts initially, but you just go tread lightly with your family, and it works out in the long run. And it really is, just like he said, it's somewhat, it's their business. Hey, I started this. Who are you to teach me? And I've had that conversation with my father initially. Who are you to tell me what to do? I'm like, Dad, I'm not here to hurt your feelings. And that's what happens. When you're in a boardroom and you have a CEO, there are no feelings. Everyone's doing their job. But at home, you really can't tell your dad to, hey, go fly a kite. It's not going to work.
Nikhil, any thoughts on... I know you created both the businesses, so...
Yeah, no, but my thoughts are very, very different, It'll be more like advice, and maybe I might resonate more with your father than with you. So unfortunately, this is the only advice I'll have. But I'll just say one thing, that whenever you do a business, you do a huge amount of research. You try to find out about the company with which you are doing business, you understand their culture, you understand their dynamics, and that's how you do business. So when it is your father or your mother involved, why don't you do research? That's my first question. So I'll just give you a very simple example from my life, which really helped me. I grew up in Bombay. I was in the best environment. I went to my village in 1977. Most of you all must not be born there. And I was very, very young. And after that, I went to the village 30 years later. That was in 2007. One of my dad's elder brother had passed away, and my dad said, I want you to go to the village for the flowing the ashes in the Ganga. When I went to the village, I took my biggest car because I was going back to the village, and as life would have it, I reached the village and the car wouldn't go inside the village road. And you know, all of them bring their shacks out, so they said that the car will go in the night. But if you take it in the night, then you can't take it out in the day, so I kept it outside the village. Then I walked in. I stayed the night at the village, and one of my dad's friend's sons came in. And he said, you know, your father is a very good friend of my father. And so I said, can you show me around? So he said, what do you want to see? I said, what is there? He said, there's a school here, so let's go to the school. I said, can I go to the college? He says, there's no college. Now, I was talking 65 years after independence. So I said, is there a train station around? He said, yeah, it's about 60 kilometers away. All I learned was, I had huge respect for my dad, that he had come out of that village 50 years ago and given me that upbringing. I understood him extremely well. Now, what typically happens is, if you have a family business, ask your father, spend time with him, understand his mindset. You need to understand that you need to educate him. Whatever is happening today in terms of the internet and in terms of e-commerce and what's happening on renewable energy is a murder mystery to him. And if you do not take all your constituents with you, you will not succeed in any business. So if you can't take your father with you, there's something you're doing wrong. So you have to educate him, you have to understand where he came from, understand how he thinks, and spend a lot of time. You might realize that it's the reverse now, that he needs to be educated. And if you can educate him, he'll put all his money behind you. I'll give you one more incident because it's very, very useful. I have a friend who's a second generation entrepreneur. Father is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in India. Son and father used to be at loggerheads. Best friend of mine, he was on my board, is on my board, everything happening, and he says, you know, I just can't get along with my dad. I'm going to leave my family business and go and do things by myself. So I was doing road shows for my listed company. And when you normally go out for raising capital, you are almost begging. you take a nice, it's a beautiful little bowl, but you take it for begging. So I took him and I told him, you have to sit with me through an entire day of presentations. So at the end of the day, he saw me doing everything and he started laughing. He said, why the hell did you make me sit through this? How does this help me? I said, all these guys whom I met today were going to give me $10 million. And that's why I was really chasing them up, and you understood how I was explaining to them. I said, your father's going to give you $1 billion, better listen to him. And he is the managing director of his company now, very, very successful. So sometimes you have to take the right advice and make them grow with you. It's actually your thinking that you're learning, but the truth is the world has changed so fast that your parents need learning.
A popular question always is the hiring of family members into the business. And the question that they are asking is, do you believe hiring within the family is highly effective, or does it hinder the growth of the company? Want to start?
Both. We've had third generation kids come into the family business and their passion wasn't there. Their passion, your passion doesn't have to necessarily be your parents' passion. And eventually we financed them and they wanted to do something else on their own. That's fine. But when you come into the family business, you're expected to learn everything. So the first thing that everyone's given, and it kills their ego, is a broom. Go and sweep the floor. And everyone's like, man, I just went to 4 years of college. It's like, okay, let them sweep the floor for a week. They understand what it is exactly that everyone did 40 years ago. And it's not that we're breaking them, but just get a better appreciation of everything. And then eventually from sweeping floors, you get a pen, you get a desk, and you're good to go. But yeah, there are some people that can join the family business and some people that they're just not cut out for it.
And they sort of self-select them out, as the
Yes.
passion is not there for the business.
Yeah, you have. Listen, we're selling grocery. It's not a glamorous business. We're selling grocery, but you have to be passionate about it. You have to be passionate about consumer service, explaining products, dynamics of why things are better. You have to have that.
Keshav, you want to add there?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a contrarian here. I believe that when you start a business, I think it's you're bootstrapping. It's maybe difficult to sell your vision to outsiders, and as you're scaling, it's also difficult to get the right professionals in the right places. But once you reach a certain scale, so that may happen in the first generation, may happen in the second generation, may take 3 or 4 generations. But once you reach that scale where you can afford to get the best person for each job out there, whether it's in the family or outside the family, I think you're better served by having the best professional. Like I said, it could be from within the family if you've got qualified professionals from the family. So I think that's something we need to really evaluate, and I believe that as well. I think. I worked with my family business for 5 years. At some point, I realized that and I helped professionalize the business. But I also realized that there were some aspects of the business that professionals could do better than me. I think it was great that we were able to get in some of the professionals to get involved there. So I think sometimes you end up overstuffing a family business with family members, and that helps to a point. It helps in businesses where trust is important. It helps in markets like India where enforceability of contract is difficult, so trust is all that you have. But I think to a large extent, once you get to a certain scale, you're far better off giving the family members a sort of a monthly dividend or something, and allowing the professionals to go and really scale that business to the next level. And the businesses that have allowed that to happen, surprisingly end up, the longevity sort of, I think, is guaranteed.
My own work with some of the family business group like Murugappa Group and so on is a discipline they have for family members to execute and deliver before they get promoted. So to some extent, bringing in professionals, but also expecting professional results from your family members. Nikhil, you want to add something?
No, I'm sort of in sync with these guys on this totally. Means whatever he said, you have to have the right talent for the right job. And I think he's also saying, give them the broom. So ultimately they're saying, train your children, train your people. But the challenges which we face, because I've been in a business for last 20 years or whatever, sometimes some guys are very good at the large picture, and you don't have a large picture in your family. So what do? He could be one of the best guys for corporate life, but could not be an entrepreneur. So you have to take a very challenging decision if your business involves a lot of family, cousins, everything. If it's a small, tight family, then it's easier to manage.
So one of the questions that I think is tempting for many Babson graduates who are seeing what I would call 21st century technology and so on being applied is, how do you see technology playing a role in the Indian family business? I'll start with you, Nikhil. Technology and how it plays a role in your family business.
Yeah, technology is changing the world, so it's got nothing to do with family business. It's got to do with business. And a lot of people get very, very excited about the Google car, but India is such a large opportunity. We have the lowest productivity per hectare of agriculture in the world. 50% of our economy or our population is employed in agriculture. Now visualize a scenario that you use technology to enhance productivity. So what is technology doing today? It could happen anywhere. Today you need 4 acres of land to get 1 megawatt of solar power. Solar power is replacing coal-based power forever. Now what can it do for my family? If one of the kids on my family come back with some technology and say I can produce 1 megawatt of power in half an acre of land, he will change our destiny. So technology has nothing to do with computers. It's got to do with increasing efficiency. It's got to do with increasing the way we do business. And all businesses are hungry for one idea. So if one of these youngsters go and take one idea home, they could change the destiny of their family business forever. So that's what I feel technology is all about.
You've used technology in your business, Keshav?
Yeah, I have. I think The way I look at it, I mean, and in Rohan Murthy's talk earlier as well, he talked about software eating the world, and I think it was one of the most fascinating articles, by Mark Anderson, and I think, and today to say mobile is eating the world, and I think the truth is that all of our family businesses, are at threat, of disruption from software, and I think it's our duty and to sort of inform our businesses about the coming tsunami of software and technology disruption. I think I see it in my business. In my family business, we're a traditional hospitality company. We own and operate our own brand under the brand Royal Orchid Hotels in India. And while we're not directly impacted in a very big manner yet by companies like Airbnb, I think I was the first to raise the red flag when it started and got its Series A. I said, look, this is something that can really hurt us, and it's something that we need to evaluate. Luckily, I'd already started off my budget hotel chain on my own, so I didn't have to sort of convince the entire family to sort of start figuring out how to incorporate software into our business. But and being a computer engineer, I could actually develop the software myself. So to some extent, I didn't have a family business problem there. It was more of a business problem. I could see software coming. I mean, it's almost like software is an army, but luckily we had some of the tools to sort of adapt our business and make us more resilient, and also use software to make us more efficient and sort of. So I think today, like we had 6 hotels in 4 years, and in the last 1 year we've added over 74 hotels. So that's the power of
quantum scale.
That's the power of technology, right? And we're much more profitable now than we were. So so I think if you're the next generation, as Nikhil said earlier, you're especially when you're here in a great college like this, you actually see stuff that may get implemented maybe in India in a few years, and you could be one of the people that could go out there and implement it. But most importantly, since technology is probably going to disrupt your family business, as it is disrupting so many other businesses, you would be the most important person to go back there and sort of figure out how to tackle that disruption, or if not, actually go out and disrupt your business yourself.
Shwetal, you face a retail environment in the US where technology is already there. How do you incorporate technology into your business, or how does it change your business?
Well, for us, it was back in '94 is when we first put in the very first scanning system in our store in Chicago. And that disrupted my father and uncle's way of thinking. They said, no, this won't work. I said, guys, patience, it'll work. And now that scanning technology that we implemented in '94 helps us procure better. It gives us more analytical data on what our consumers are buying. We'll do Q cards shortly, hopefully by the end of this year, so that we know more about our consumer and help them better with deals and stuff like that.
So in terms of inventory, stock, and everything else, it sort of has made it much more.
It's becoming more automated. Before it was always a 20-page book and you wrote what your order was, flipping pages. Now it's a scanning system. It just gets transmitted to the DC. DC pulls the merchandise gets delivered.
I'm going to adapt a question from the audience, which is for each of you, which is, what was your biggest personal and professional challenge in whatever you've done? Nikhil, you want to start?
I think every challenge at every stage of life is extremely important. I don't know what example to give you all. Okay, I'll give you all 2 examples. When we were starting the brand, Provogue, and we had only 2 stores in which we used to supply, and there was this agency which would walk into us every day and give us a whole speech on how we should be running the brand, and I had only 2 stores, and they said you should be conducting research. Obviously, I wasn't in the most popular stores, so there was a store called Bombay Store, very, very nice store, and there were only ladies going there. So everyone asked, we went for a survey and they said, who's buying? They said, ladies are buying. Why are they buying it? Because the colors are nice, whatever. So after all the research, they said, you sell only men's shirts, only ladies are buying. So I said, what should we react to this? So we said, let's do a fashion show only for ladies and only men models. Let's try it. So we did a show in Bombay. 700 women turned up. They almost broke the bar down. And all the male models were the most famous ones of India of those times. Milind Soman, John Abraham, whatever. John Abraham had just come back, whatever. So it was a very, very exciting way of understanding. We got huge amount of publicity. And the biggest thing I learned in terms of marketing is, if you have novelty in how you market your product, it makes news. So that was the first lesson. The second challenge was, how do we spread our distribution? So Shoppers Stop had just been there for 2 or 3 years, but they were extremely arrogant. They wouldn't allow a new brand, only international brands or their own products. So we went to a call center. Those times, call centers weren't very popular. So outside the head office of Shoppers Stop, we put up one hoarding with John Abraham there. And very interestingly, we called up the call center guy and we said that, boss, you should call the store every day and ask, do you stock Provogue? Now, somewhere in my argument with him, I think we got it wrong. So that fellow, I told him, you make 10 calls a day to the store asking for Provogue merchandise. That fellow got the number wrong. He started doing 100 calls a day. So I went to the head office and I said, you know, I want to sell to you. And they said, I said, at least ask the store. You know, he said, no, we're not interested. I said, ask the store, maybe there's demand for it. I said, I'm getting demand from everywhere. He calls up the store. The store fellow says, I need this merchandise. I don't know who's this guy, but I need this merchandise. So these are small challenges and how you solve them. I just gave a nice example of that. I'll give you a big challenge. After we did our IPO in 2005, 2006, our big challenge was, I wanted to implement a plan which was extremely huge. My turnover was 115 crores. I wanted to set up a retail real estate business. We had approximately 25 crores with us, and we wanted to execute a 1,000 crore plan. We needed 650 crores of debt, 350 crores of equity. And we have set out on the path to build that business with 25 crores. So this is the time when India was, 2005-06 was extremely strong. So we actually took options on different parcels of land, created a discounted cash flow methodology, and went to every fund in India, saying that we will build shopping centers, and those shopping centers, by discounted cash flow, would be worth 900 crores. Obviously, a lot of them laughed at us and they said, you crack, you got 20 crores in your pocket, how are you going to do it? But, that's why we say, those who dream the most, do the most. We found one of the largest partners in the world who believed in the story, and they said that you can put this story together, and it actually sums up what we did in business over the last 20 years. They offered us funding. They gave us 202.5 crores for 25% of our business. But you need to understand, we had only 25 crores, so we were at 225 crores. So they said that we will take the other 50% of your business if you are not able to bring another 125 crores. So sometimes, luck favors the brave. Because we made this announcement, our market cap went up by 1,000 crores. We sold off 10% of the company, and we got the 125 crores in, and got the funding of 350 crores. Then we went on and got 650 crores of debt. So we diluted maybe 35% of our company and built a 1,000 crore business out of it. And we still own 65% of that business. So what I'm saying is that what opportunity an entrepreneur can get is dependent on his belief. You look at technology, it can change your life. Even brick and mortar can change your life. You believe in it, it'll happen.
Quick, we're running in short of time. Can you summarize quickly what some personal and professional challenge?
Yeah, I think the personal challenge is something is always the work-life balance. I think I have two young boys, and you always worried whether you're spending enough time with them, but then when you always have work to do as well. So that's something that I still face, probably will continue to face that. Professional challenge, I think, is been more about tackling, figuring out how to scale in India. I think it's a tough environment to scale. So I think that's something that again you tend to still struggle with from time to time.
Quickly.
On the professional side, you put your heart into a new product launch, and you have to give something time to mature. But after 2-3 years, the product that you launch, it didn't do well, and you have to terminate the product. It really hurts. It hurts your ego more than it hurts anything else, because you put a lot of time and effort into it. And in terms of personally, like he said, just that time balance with work and your family.
I'd like to close with just a single phrase you might want to leave behind for students who are thinking of going back and joining their family business. Single phrase.
Tread lightly.
Krishna?
Be humble, and but at the same time, try to disrupt your family business. I think that's something.
Everything which is right here and wrong in India is the opportunity.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Balji, Mr. Chaturvedi, Mr. Patel, and Professor Hariharan for shedding light on the dilemma we as students face as we head back to our family businesses. You just inspired us to think deeper and reflect on the underlying motivations found in joining our family businesses. As a token of our appreciation, we would now like to present a memento that you can take back along with good memories from Babson.
Really lovely here. Wow. Thank you. Yeah?
Oh, sure. With the
Okay.
What have we seen?
thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. Nice to meet you. You got my card.